In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most beneficent. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. My name is Afia Mahmood. I am from Bank Road campus, and this is the course of Semantics and Pragmatics for students of BS English Semester 6. The topic that we have to cover today is of lexical relations. These are also called sense relations or semantic relations. So if you come across these three terms anywhere, lexical relations or sense relations or semantic relations, these are actually the same ones. So this particular topic will be covered in 3 video lectures. I hope you will learn something out of it. We begin our today's lecture by defining lexical relations. Now, dear students, all of you know that in semantics we study meaning. But words are not only the containers of meaning, they also have their relationship with each other. In everyday talk, as I have written here as well, we often explain the meanings of words in terms of their relationships. For example, conceal, or if you want to explain its meaning to somebody, you can say it's same as hide. So you are actually trying to explain words in terms of their relationships as well. So when we are characterizing the word in terms of its relationship with some other words, we are actually studying it with its other relations. And this approach in semantics, this approach is used in semantic description of language, and it is treated as the analysis of lexical relations. Now we will have some examples of lexical relations. So look at these. So you can say that conceal is same as hide if you want to explain it to someone. You can say deep is the opposite of shallow if you want to explain the meaning of shallow to somebody. You can say that it's opposite to deep, or you can say pine is a kind of tree. So you can actually try to explain the meaning of a word to another person. The competent speakers of a language, they actually are able to define and explain and characterize the words with the help of these relations. Now look at these. So these words actually, so these are the relations that we just have exemplified over here. Conceal and hide, they denote the relationship of synonymy. Shallow and deep, they denote the relationship of antonymy. And pine and tree, they represent the relation of hyponymy. So in this lecture, we will cover these topics from your course outline: synonymy, hyponymy, antonymy, homonymy, polysemy, prototypes, metonymy, and collocation. The first 2 will be covered in this video, and the rest of these will be covered in the next 2 videos. So this lecture is activity based, and I suggest you that all of you should have your notebooks with you, because you will have to answer many questions during this lecture. So the first relationship that we are going to discuss is the relationship of synonymy. I hope all of you are very much familiar with this term, but in this lecture we will look at these familiar terms, this one and some more familiar terms, in terms of their semantic analysis. So look at the definition. It says that synonymy is the relationship between 2 predicates or 2 words that have the same or partially same sense. So they will have similar sense or same sense, because it's very hard to find the words or to find the predicates that have exactly the same sense in a language or in a dialect. So for example, in most dialects, not in all dialects of English, stubborn and obstinate are synonyms of each other. Similarly, brigand and bandit are synonyms. Brigand means a thief who is member of a band. So these two are synonyms to each other. Similarly, mercury and quicksilver, these two are synonyms to each other in many English dialects. But this is a note of caution that you should keep in mind, that it is very hard to find exactly synonymous words, because sometimes a word can be used in one context while the other cannot be used in the same context. The examples of perfect synonymy are hard to find because there is little point in a dialect having two words or predicates with exactly the same sense. Now, how is it very hard to find some words or predicates which are exactly having the same sense? So let's take the example of the words like clever, intelligent, and brainy. These are not exactly the same. Where one will be used, other might not be used. As I said in the previous slide as well, that context can vary. So we will have to do some work. We will have to make sentences. We will have to do some practice to find out the exact synonymy or similar, the words which are similar if not same in meaning. We will have to make some effort to find such words. Then let's take the example of another word like lady and woman. These two words are not the same. In the, for example, in the championship of tennis, we say that there is ladies championship, but we don't say that there is gentlemen's championship. So it means opposite to the word lady, gentleman cannot be used. It means there is some different sense of lady and woman are not exactly the same. So the next point here is that the notions of synonymy and sense are interdependent. You have to keep this in mind, and we will get its answer. We will have some of its practice in the later slides. That how the sense, the notion of sense or the meaning of sense and synonymy are interdependent. In fact, a word has many senses, but all these senses are not synonymous to each other. One word, for example, word lady or even word intelligent will have many senses, or word clever will have many senses, but all these senses will not be synonymous. Or for example, the word bank will have many senses, but all these senses will not be synonymous. So these are interdependent, but not exactly the same. We will also have some practice related to it in the coming slides. So for now, we just have said this one, that it is the relationship between two predicates, and it is very hard to find the words which are exactly synonymous. Okay, now here is a practice for you guys. In the following sentences, you have to see whether the capitalized pairs of words have the same or very nearly the same sense in the ways they are used here. So you have to do it. You have 1 minute for doing it. If you have done, then that's fine. If you have not done, you can just pause the video here and then you can move on. So I am moving to the next slide. So now there is another point about synonymy that we should keep in mind. That is that when we are considering the sense of a word, when we are trying to find out the synonyms of the word, we are actually abstracting away from any stylistic, social, or dialectical associations the word may have. So we will not consider any stylistic or any social or any dialectal meanings when we are dealing with the synonyms. We will only concentrate on what is called the dictionary meaning, what is also called the literal meaning, and what is also called the conceptual or cognitive meaning in semantics. So we will not consider any of the social or dialectal or stylistic meanings. Otherwise, we will never be able to find out will never be able to find out the synonyms which are nearly same. This is why we will ignore such meanings or such associations. Look at this example which has been given. The example says that how many kids you have got and how many children have you got. In this particular example, we will deviate, we will not consider any of the stylistic or formal meanings of these two words. We will just say that these two are synonyms to each other, because if we look at stylistic variation, it will be hard to find the synonyms. You up till now you would have studied 7 types of meaning. So in 7 types of meanings, the first type of meaning was conceptual meaning. So we are only going to consider the conceptual meaning of these words. Now let's move on. Here is a practice for you again. In the following sentences, you have to determine whether these words have same sense or different sense. You will notice that the words which have been written here in the capital letters, these can be used in their different dialectal or stylistic senses. For example, like the words freedom and liberty or the word house and apartment, they can have their different dialectal or stylistic or social associations. But you have to consider only the conceptual or cognitive meaning, and keeping in mind that you have to decide whether they are same or different. So your time starts now. You have some 30 seconds to do this. Now, dear students, we will move on. Now here on this particular slide, we will discuss the difference between predicates and verb forms. We are discussing the relations, lexical relations, which are the relations between lexemes. Now these relations are between predicates. These relations are not between verb forms. It is, so this is what has been written here. Synonymy is a relation between predicates and not between word forms. Word forms can be, what can be the word forms now? For example, if you have a word like work, it's one form. If you say works, it will be another word which is now verb. If I say working, it's another third form. So synonym is a relation between predicates and not between these word forms. Now a word may have many different senses. each distinct sense of a word is a predicate. So it may have different senses, and here I have given the example how the word may have different senses. The examples which are given here are the word hide has been taken over here, and you can see that there are four senses of hide given. So four senses of hide are given over here. You can see hide one is the meaning of hide one is it can be the intransitive verb, let's hide from mummy, or the second one could be the transitive verb as in hide your sweeties. Now the syntax of the both of these verbs is different. Third one is a noun. We watched the birds from a hide from a place where you were actually hiding. It has been used here as a noun. And in fourth one, it has also been used as a noun, but this time the hide is in the meaning of skin, or the hide or skin of an ox weighs about 200 pounds. So you can see there are different senses, and synonym will be a relationship between these senses. So when necessary, we distinguish between predicates by giving them a subscript numbers. So in dictionaries, you can generally see that these numbers are given in the dictionaries to distinguish one sense from the other sense, and then senses are interlinked with some senses of the other words. For example, it is a possibility that this hide, this hide 4 would be interlinked with some sense of skin, which means that this hide will be synonymous to the sense or to the predicate skin. So we will connect, or we actually say that synonyms are relations between predicates. One sense of one word can be linked to one sense of another word. Now there is another practice for you. Here you will, on the next slide, you will find some words. What you have to do, that there will be pairs of words, and you have to do these two things with those pairs of words. First thing that you have to do is give a sentence in which the two words could be used interchangeably without altering the sense of the sentence. So a pair of word has been given in the first sentence, in or as an A part, you have to give a sentence where the two words can be used interchangeably. Then you have to give the B part of the exercise is that you have to give another sentence using one of the words where a different sense is involved, where both cannot be used interchangeably. So you can see in the next slide here one example has been done for you. Now this particular part is necessary to find out the synonyms, to find out the synonyms which are really real synonyms. If we are not doing this, we might not be able to find out the real synonyms. Look at this A part here. Deep and profound can be used interchangeably. Like you can say you have my deep or profound sympathies, but you cannot say the river is very deep, you cannot say the river is very profound. So you can see that in this particular sentence profound cannot be used, though both of these are synonyms, but not all the senses of these can be synonyms to each other. So profound cannot be used in certain contexts. So this is how you have to do it. Look at the instructions again. One sentence where both the words in the pair can be used alternatively, and the second sentence where one word can be used and the other cannot be used. This is the example. And now here on the next slide, here is the practice for you. Look at these: ripe versus mature, broad versus wide, earth versus soil, and side versus edge. You have to make sentences of these four pairs. Dear students, if you find it hard to make sentences, you can consult dictionaries, because dictionaries will give you different meanings, different senses, and they will help you to make sentences of the word, make sentences of these words that look same and that look the different as well. So you are welcomed and you are allowed to use the dictionaries. Now we will move on. If you haven't done, you are obviously allowed to pause the video. Now, why were we doing this exercise, this previous one? So, because we actually wanted this thing. We wanted to clearly separate all those senses which are actually not synonymous. So, the definition of synonymy as a relationship between the senses of words requires a clear separation of all the different senses of a word. We want to clearly separate all the different senses, and that will only be possible if you will try to practice it through the sentences, because apparently you will feel that words look the same, or apparently you will feel that okay, this is synonymous, but as you saw that you could not actually do it in practice, where some word can be used with certain other sets of words, the other cannot be, like the river cannot be profound. So we cannot use one word for all the contexts. Okay, the next one, now here is the concluding remark on synonymy, that look at this, that all the examples that we have taken so far are of synonymy where the predicates were of the same grammatical category. For example, deep and profound, and let's look at the other examples as well. Broad and wide, these are also adjectives, and plus earth and soil, these two are noun, and side and edge, these are nouns, and ripe and mature, both are adjectives. So we had taken the examples, and plus the examples that we had taken in all the previous slides as well. So the examples that we have taken so far were actually from the same part of speech. Look at this, sleeping and asleep. Now the question is, can we have synonyms of the words, or can the words which belong to different part of speech categories, can they also be synonymous to each other? Now this is the question. Think for your answer for a moment. If you have tried to think of some examples where sleeping and asleep can be used, you would have found that their contexts might be different. So we can say that grammar and meaning, though they are related, still they are actually separate aspects of language, and the predicates which belong to different part of speech categories cannot be synonymous to each other. We will only say that those predicates which belong to the same part of speech are or those predicates which belong to the same part of speech are synonymous to each other. It is also said that the lexical relations are actually paradigmatic relations. So paradigmatic relations are actually they belong to the same part of speech category. They don't belong to the different part of speech category. So now we will move on. Now this is what I said, that sense of a word does not depend entirely on its part of speech. You will see that the word may give you different meaning with the different grammatical structure. So it does not entirely depend on its grammatical structure. There is meaning which is context dependent, there is meaning which will be dependent on its usage. So grammar and meaning, though they are separate, though they are closely related, still they are separate aspects of language. So we cannot mix the two. Now next, here we are going to apply notion of sameness in sentences. What is sameness and how it can be applied in sentences? Sameness the notion of synonymy, you can also say synonymy. We had been discussing the notion of sameness or synonymy in words or in predicates, in individual predicates. Now we will see how it can be applied to sentences. When it is applied to sentences, we say it is paraphrase. So we say a sentence which expresses the same proposition as another sentence is a paraphrase of that sentence. So the proposition can be the meaning. So a sentence which expresses the same meaning will be said to be the paraphrase of that sentence. So paraphrase is to sentence as synonymy is to predicates. Or so synonymy is the word which is used for predicates or words, and paraphrase is the word which is used for the sentences. Look at these two. John sold the book to a grandson of W.B. Yeats, and a grandson of W.B. Yeats bought the book from Johnson. Now both of these are exactly conveying the same meaning, conveying the same proposition. Their grammatical structure is different, but still they are actually the same. Their meaning is same, so we can say one is the paraphrase of each other. So these are, or in other words, you can say these are synonymous. But for sentences we use the term paraphrase, we don't use the term synonym. Okay, now here is a practice for you again. You have to decide all are the following pairs paraphrases of each other. Now in each you can say there are total 7 pairs and 2 sentences are given in each. For example, John is the parent of James, and James is the child of John. So do you think these are synonymous, or do you think these are paraphrases of each other? So yes, they are paraphrases of each other. John is the parent, obviously James is the child of John. So look at these and complete it, then we will move on. Dear students, I hope you would have decided that which one of these are paraphrases and which of these are not paraphrases of each other. If you have not, you can pause. I am going to move on. Now here is the next lexical relationship that we will discuss in this lecture. It is hyponymy. Hyponymy is a relationship between predicates or sometimes longer phrases. So you see where here we can also have some longer phrases, you can say a phrase consisting of 2 words or 3 words as well. But in this lecture we will only discuss the predicates consisting of 1 word. So it is a relationship where meaning of one predicate is included in the meaning of the other predicate. So for example, the meaning of red is included in the meaning of scarlet. Red is the main color. You can see red is the main color and scarlet is one shade of red. So this meaning of red is included in the meaning of scarlet. Similarly, if I use the word furniture in and the other word, its hyponym will be chair, its hyponym can be table. So we can say that the meaning of furniture is included in the meaning of chair or is included in the meaning of table because they are pieces or items of furniture. So, and another thing that you need to remember, the general term, like we have taken the example of red here and we have taken the example of furniture, the general term will be called the superordinate term and the subordinate term will be called hyponym. So it is, the superordinate term is also called hypernym and the subordinate term is also called the hyponym. Okay, now in general sense, relationships involving hyponymy are usually structured in this way, with the superordinate term more abstract, general or schematic than its hyponyms. Always the superordinate term will be more general. So there are hypernyms or superordinates which are general. For example, furniture, this is more general. It may have hyponyms as table, chair, or bed, or sofa. There may be these different hyponyms of it. Similarly, if you have flower, there may be different hyponyms of it, like jasmine or like rose, these are, or lily, these are different hyponyms of it. Similarly, for red, you had the hyponym of scarlet, and there may be other shades of red which can be included in it as its hyponyms. Now look at these and practice. In these examples, you have to write some of the hyponyms of these words. So to write the hyponyms of these words, some hyponyms are written, some you have to write. To write the hyponyms, you can use internet, you can use dictionaries, you can use anything you want to use. You have to think of the hyponyms. It will make your concept more clear. You have to write at least 3 hyponyms of each one. For example, the first word is horse, the second is tree, third word is virtue, fourth is emotion, fifth is strike, and sixth one is pleasant. You have to write at least 3 hyponyms of each of the word given. So your time starts now. Okay, dear students, if you would have done, that's great. Now let's move on. Now, hyponymy is also defined in terms of inclusion. We say that sense of one item is included in the sense of an other. We can show this with the help of this picture, with the help of this diagram. Look at this diagram. In the diagram, you can see that sense of animal is included in the sense of cow. So by now you would have studied semantic features. In semantic features, we actually tell that there are some components of a word. For example, if we have to define the word cow, the sense components or the meaning components of cow are animal, bovine, and that it's female. And you can see that this component is included here. So this is what we are saying, sense of animals is included in the sense of cow. It is also defined in terms of inclusion. And similarly, if you want to define the term female, or if you want to define the term woman or man, you will see that the term human will be included in it. So it will be part of its sense components. So we can say that hyponymy is also defined in the terms of inclusion. Sense relations are actually sense relations or lexical relations are divided into 2 broad categories. inclusion category and exclusion category. In inclusion category, we study synonym and we study hyponym, and in exclusion category we have antonymy. We have antonymy over there, so it is also part of inclusion. Now look at this diagram. You can also diagram hyponymy like this. So you can see here hyponym is here, and hyponym is the superordinate term, the more general, the more abstract term, and these are the hyponyms. One other term which is sometimes used in some books is the term co-hyponyms. Co-hyponyms are the hyponyms of each other. For example, rose and jasmine and orchid, these are co-hyponyms of each other. Or if you take the example of furniture words, table and chair will be co-hyponyms of each other. Furniture will be the hypernym, the superordinate term. So they are the co-hyponyms of each other, and they are the hyponyms of flower. Now let's move on. There is one more thing, that we define synonymy as a special case of hyponymy. Now how this synonymy is a special case of hyponymy, let's look at it. So hyponymy, look at these examples, mercury and quicksilver. Now these two are synonyms of each other. Mercury and quicksilver, these are synonyms of each other, but these are also co-hyponyms of each other. Similarly, the child and cat similarly are the co-hyponyms of each other, and they are also synonym. So the synonymy can be seen as a special case of hyponymy, which we call symmetrical hyponymy. So the hyponymy which will be symmetrical or same in meaning like these two will be called the will be said to, we will say that it is also a special case of synonymy, is also a special case of hyponymy. So inside hyponymy we will have some synonyms as well. Now we will move on. There are some more examples of hyponymy, like look at it here in this particular column B. You have more general words, like you have flower, and the hyponym of flower is tulip. Animal, sheep, take and steal. So stealing is a form of taking actually. Similarly rectangular and square, they are so square is the hyponym. Now here I have written some examples from WordNet. Now what is this WordNet? WordNet is actually one of the large database of words where you will find that how words are linked to each other. The relations of words are actually written inside that dictionary. This WordNet actually resembles a thesaurus, where there are groups of words which have been grouped or linked according to the relations. The most important relation which is found in this WordNet, which I have mentioned here, is the relationship of synonymy. However, you will also find the relation of antonymy and hyponymy and hypernymy over there. So I have written a few sentences from I have written a few examples of hyponymy of horse. So the main word here is horse. I had entered this word and I had then taken these hyponyms of horse from the WordNet. I'll also show you its the real application. I'll give you a short demo of the real application as well, from where you can find all the relations. So the main purpose of studying these lexical relation is, the main scope is that we can actually write dictionaries. It will be helpful for us in writing the dictionaries, as well as these relations will be helpful for us in language teaching and language learning as well. Because if you are teaching students the language with the help of uh, different synonyms, hyponyms, obviously their vocabulary is going to increase. Now look at these hyponyms of horse. You can see the first one is this: solid, hoofed, herbivorous, quadruped, domesticated since prehistoric times. This is the most obvious sense of horse. Now look at it, next one, another which is hyponym of it: roan, a horse having a brownish coat thickly sprinkled with white or grey. Now it's a particular kind of horse. Now see gigi, another hyponym, a word for horse used by children or in adult slang. Now it is a word. Now see it, it's ohippus, dawn horse, or earliest horse, extinct primitive dog-sized four-toed animal. Now look at this last one: North American three-toed Oligocene animal, probably not directly ancestral to modern horses. Now you see all these are different types of hyponyms which are listed in one large dictionary, which is, I told you the name, WordNet. It's actually slightly different than dictionary. It's based on the model of thesaurus. Okay, now you have to look up these words. This is sort of your assignment, that you have to look up these words in the WordNet. You can access the WordNet through this particular website, wordnet.princeton.edu. You can download it as well as you can use it online. So whatever you feel comfortable with, you can do that. Now I will give you a small demo of WordNet. So now dear students, I have opened WordNet. Here you can see it is WordNet 2.1 browser. It is mentioned over here. I am enlarging it. So I have made it full screen, and now you can see I have written the word flower over here. You can see 4 meanings or 4 senses of flower are here. 3 are nouns and 1 is verb. Now I will click this noun. There are options, and I will click on the hyponym. When I'll click on the hyponym, you can see a long list of the types of flowers has opened over here. You can see there are different hyponyms written here. So look at the first one. Let's look at the first one. It's flower, a plant cultivated for its blooms or blossoms. Then you can see the next one is bloomer, a flower that blooms in a particular way. Here we will also find different types of flowers. So you can see that there are so many different senses, like calla lily or arum lily, and there are so many others. You can just, I think that the font size would be too small for you. You can just go to the website and find out that how many hyponyms are listed for just flower. Now I'll write here the word cat. Now see, I have written the word cat. It has searched these senses of the word cat. Now I will again click on the noun because it is noun, and I'll click on the hyponyms brief, and here there are hyponyms of cat. You can see that there are different hyponyms of cat given over here, different types of cats. Now dear students, I will write the word deep here because I also want to show you some of the synonyms. I have written the word deep. We had dealt with this word in the lecture. Now I will click here because it is an adjective. I will click on the adjective and I will click on the synonyms. So I've clicked on the synonyms and the list has opened. A long list is there. Now you can see we can find profound over here, and we can find many other many other synonyms for the word deep. And all those synonyms are listed sense wise. So this particular sense, the sense 1, has profound as its synonym. Other senses have different other synonyms. So I hope you will be able to access this online, or you'll be able to download it. After downloading it, you have to do those 3 words which I have written there on the slides, and you have to try to find out those words in the WordNet. Now that's the end of our first part of the lecture. You can look up these words or any other words. You have to look up the hyponyms of these words, and you can try to find out the synonyms as well. Now here are the references. You can consult this book, the book by Hurford, Semantics, a course book. It's downloadable from the internet. If you are not able to download, you can contact me, or you can contact your course instructors as well. Plus I have taken some introductory material from this book of George Yule as well, The Study of Language. So wish you best of luck, dear students. Thank you very much for your time.